All right, here at 9:14 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, North Carolina's jail system is under serious strain, apparently. Facilities across the state are so packed that sheriffs are sending out these mass emails trying to find a spare bed from another facility in a different county. And woven through all of this is a mental health crisis and no real easy answers. Joining us here in the Live Impact studio right now, Mecklenburg County Sheriff Garry McFadden. Thanks for coming in on a Thursday, although we usually meet on a Tuesday. But
we'll be back on the Tuesday soon.
All right, absolutely. So, Sheriff, are we in a jail crisis?
I would say yes. And being one of the largest detention centers, jails in the state, you know, we're at maximum for several months. And so now we're creating new bed space. But it's not stacker bunks, but they are stacker bunks where people say they're sleeping on the floors, where we have this apparatus that we allow them to sleep on. But we're moving them now to bunk bed style facility inside our facility. It's called a G unit. So we are actually, if you see the usual style, I guess, housing for correctional facilities where you're sleeping above someone, that is where we're at now. And so, yes, across the state, if somebody says they have space, we can't find it because people are asking us to house people, and we said we can't, being the largest facility in the state.
How did we get here?
Well, we get here with, you know, we say bond referendums, people, poor income, you know, poverty. People cannot get their people out of jail, like for better words. You know, most people can't bond someone out. They don't have the means, the necessary funding to bond someone out. And we're talking about the mental health crisis where the magistrates are somewhat reluctant to give bonds differently from before. So we're here at a crisis.
So this is an even larger issue than just jail capacity. Talk to the systemic part of it then. Where do we start?
Well, I think we have to come to the table and have honest conversation and not attack someone or not to try to make a political stance. For instance, Friday of last week, we had 51 people have already been sentenced to go to prison. There is no beds at the top. There's no beds in the correctional facility that we can send these people. Excuse me. So we're continually housing the same people who were housing our facility after they have been sentenced. I think as of today, we may have 40 on what we call backlog. So they are remaining in Mecklenburg County, serving out their sentence, which is supposed to be at the state level, but we have them here at Mecklenburg County.
Okay. Who are these people? How long have they been waiting? And what do you do when it is overcrowded?
Well, it's a variation of charges, you know, anything from murder down to rape, robbery, all the charges that we see every day. So it's different, you know. What do? We keep them here in Mecklenburg County, and the state pays us a small amount to continually house them here in Mecklenburg County. That's the only resolution we have now. If somebody else can think of something else, we need to find those answers. But continually to talk about it and have no resolutions, is going to be a problem later.
I mentioned here everybody's getting some email. There are emails exchanged from other sheriffs in other counties reaching out, asking for spare beds. But if you've got the backlog of people trying to get into the state prison system, what is that exchange like?
Well, the exchange is that we have a general email among sheriffs. And so a sheriff may say, hey, do you have bed space for 10? Or do you have bed space for as how many you can house, men and women? And we started getting these emails. We get them all the time, but more recently we've gotten more. We got one from Gaston, we got one from Cleveland, and I believe it's going to continue.
So this is in our area as well, surrounding the Charlotte Metro.
It is around the Charlotte Metro, and this is what I have received to say, can you house 10, 12, 15 people? And this is all across the state also, but regionally, you know, they're asking me to hold people. We don't have the capacity to hold them. And we are the largest in the region or in the state.
And where do those folks go?
Well, they don't go anywhere. They keep them housed at their facilities, and this is the overcrowding that everybody is experiencing. people are what we commonly call sleeping on the floor. Again, they're not actually sleeping on the floor. It is an apparatus created for them to sleep on, a foundation, a mattress, sheets and pillowcases, but it is not in a room or what they commonly refer as a jail cell or a pod.
When a facility is overcrowded, the G unit or what have you, but you're also housing a mix of, like you said, the murderers, the real violent criminals with other criminals, I don't know, facing maybe misdemeanors or whatnot. What is the first thing that breaks down in a system like this?
Well, the classification. We have we have what they call classification pods, but also we're gonna have to keep separate. If a crime is committed by multiple people, we try to keep them separate for obvious reason, but also for court proceedings. And so when you get overcrowding like this, it becomes a very strenuous challenge, not only for crowding, but also on staffing. If you look at where we are now, we are housing more than we have ever housed before. And people have all kind of, answers for it or opinions about it, but people are still coming to jail and they're not being released for various reasons. We have bond problems and then we have poverty problems. Some people just can't bond their loved ones out because they don't have the funds, and so they remain. And of course, we know the court system is always going to be backed up because of the many trials that the trials that we have, and also people are allegedly, let me make sure I say that, allegedly committed crimes. And so they're always going to bring them to Mecklenburg County Detention Center. All of the townships in Mecklenburg County will bring them to our facility.
Let's talk about mental health for both your staff as well as the inmates, the residents there at the detention center. What does that do? Paint a picture for us.
It's a lot of stress. So imagine that a housing unit is 54 people. We have someone in that housing unit dealing with those 54 attitudes, opinions, problems, all in a 12-hour shift. And so that's a lot of stress and strain daily, and our shifts are 12 hours. And so imagine being there listening to people yell, scream, holler, and get disappointed because they can't go to court, disappointed because they lost a loved one while they're incarcerated. There is a lot of emotion. And when we're talking about people who've already been subjected to poverty, drugs, crisis in their life, but now they have criminal charges, put that together, and our staff have to deal with them on a daily basis. Now, most people say, well, this is why they choose the profession. They choose the profession to help people, but mental health was not a big issue in the beginning, but now it is.
Is there training then for deputies to handle cases like this, of severe and extreme personalities and conflict there in the jail system?
Well, we can always say there's training. There's always training for conflict. There's training for everything that you can imagine. But we're no different than an armed forces. You can train someone, but do you train for the unexpected that you don't even know what to expect? And so the overcrowding is a problem. Mental health is a problem. Personalities is a problem. Diagnosed with diseases are a problem. Poverty is a problem. Even our staff, we believe that our staff goes through a lot of personal issues. We have staff that lost their loved ones, their spouses, their parents, all this past month, which also brings mental health to the forefront.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It is a vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle. And you can say resources. Well, what are those resources? Who's going to pay for those resources? But mental health is a big issue inside the detention center and with my staff. And we're looking at it from a different perspective. You can have all the training, but still you're going to have to face everything that you do every day inside that detention center.
What do you need from Raleigh right now?
Well, we need funding. We're always going to ask for funding. We always ask for resources. What are the resources? So how can we help us? Better mental health for our staff, funding for our staff, funding just for the mental health where we're going with the arena law and all these other things. And if you think about it, when you say that a person is incapable to proceed, so we know the big case was the light rail stabbing. Right. That person is incapable to proceed. He will remain inside the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. The same thing with the South Point shooter. Remain inside a correctional facility or a local facility. And we have multiple people inside our facility diagnosed with the same thing. Just so happened this person has all the attention, but we have many, 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 many people with that same diagnosis.
Okay, so let's talk about those two high-profile cases then, as they are housed in the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. How do you manage that? How are they housed?
Well, they're housed in a classification unit. We try to provide them all of the resources that they need, all of the treatment that they need. But here's what you have to understand. We cannot force a person to do that unless they're under court order. And even if they are under court order, how can you physically tell a person how to do what we need for them to do and force them to do it? If they can't do it with their parents, they can't do it on the streets, they can't do it in the community. Think about the environment of incarceration. Now you're forcing a person to do something that they don't believe that is needed. That is a very difficult task.
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like, or even that's unimaginable on a day-to-day basis to have to, do exactly that. Conversation with other sheriffs then across the state, and is this a coordinated statewide response, or is each county just kind of handling their own?
Each county is kind of handling on, and and of course we're going to always say politics is involved, because we're going to have to say that. Some sheriff may not want to speak out, political reasons, political affiliation, and that is difficult. But at some point, I think that we're all going to face the same issue: mental health for our staff, mental health inside our facility, and definitely overcrowding. It's going to reach a breaking point where nobody is going to have an answer, and I think that we are kind of at that point now. How do you house all these people with all these problems, and how we keep our criminal justice system moving? We talk about it all the time, but having sheriffs come together with our lawmakers, policymakers, and decision makers come together and equally say that we have a problem and let's try to tackle it, that is going to be the task that I would ask for. How that's going to happen, I don't have the answer for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that you just answered my next question. It's something that we've been talking about. You have brought up, for months now, what to do and how to do it, and combining all of those aspects. If we are in the same position here, end of the year, 6 months from now, what does it look like by the end of 2026?
Well, I talked to a lawyer. Just happened to be someplace where I was. We're at the hospital. He's walking out and talking to one of his clients that are getting treatment at one of the local facilities. He said, when we reach December, someone needs to understand that we're going to have a crisis of housing all these people that need help, need to be evaluated, and what do we do? We talk about it and we joke about it, and we can have all the antics about the sheriff and all this, and I have to say that in the three branches, and we make a joke about all of that. But where will that joke lead us in December? What will we be doing in December? And simply, put it on Facebook and doing clips of what we say is great and it's fun, and I guess you'll get the clicks that you need. But what happens when we have a crisis inside our facilities? People will be hurt, staff will be hurt, inmates will be hurt, and we are at a crisis. We are heading toward that crisis now before December.
You said you were able to hire some deputies now that the election's behind you. Are you in that, still moving forward with those?
We're in a great position, I'll say that. Of course, we still have to deal with the use of marijuana and some other small things that will, what we say, knock you out of the process. But this past Friday, we had a great graduation, one of the largest graduations attendance that we've ever had. But we are having our deputies come on board. We have 11 deputies that just graduated, and it's called BLET, Basic Law Enforcement Training, that everybody knows. We have that. We have a pool of about 25 to 30, what we say, in the kitty, ready to move forward. And we are up to maybe 25 to 30 in the hiring process to be on board in a few weeks. And so we think that we're going in the right direction. Again, I'm always going to say, if you talk positively about an agency, which you should, we'll get the great applicants. But if you talk negatively about it, then how are we going to fill these positions? Because you said, well, that's not a place to work. We don't want to work there. And we bring all of that. And all of that is the Monday morning quarterbacking or the keyboard warriors that having fun. You're just sitting at home on their front porch, just on Facebook or whatever. If you want to have a great sheriff's office, support it. And you do have a great sheriff's office, whether you want to believe it or not. And we're nationally known, nationally ranked. We travel all over the country talking about our programs and what we do inside. But I believe that we're going to be in a great shape by the end of the year. Very positive about it.
Those keyboard warriors hit every industry, Sheriff.
It does, but I read some of the things, and people sit on their front porch, chronicles, and talk, but they bring no resolution. They bring no solutions. I wish I had that opportunity just to sit back, eating oatmeal or come out of the basement and just type on my computer every day, but I can't. I have to come out so we can be criticized and talked about, and we continue to do well. And so we want buy into what they're talking about.
Yeah.
We can't.
Easier to criticize than praise, for sure.
Oh, yes.
The sheriff's house, moving forward, you have some residents there and people coming out of the detention center system, right? And
yes.
that is also
helping.
We
love to talk about the initiatives. I wish the keyboard warriors talk about these initiatives. We had our post-release center, which is a great center. We still invite people to come down to look at our resources. But when we saw the gap in between after they are being treated inside our facility for substance abuse, now they have a warm handoff to come to the sheriff's house, and we are headed towards a great thing. And people want to help. Sometimes help is great, but we can't have meetings with no productivity. So we don't like to meet a lot. Either you have a solution, let us know, we move on, and that's what we did with the sheriff's house. I know the sheriff's house was a surprise to people, but we always got a surprise for you, and we move on. But we're doing great. The residents there are doing well. The first resident walked in the house, I'll never forget what he said. This is better than what I expected. This is nicer than I believe it was going to be. And so that is a good, and we hope that we have the graduates of the sheriff's house, and so we can, move more people in. But we're well on our way, and we're happy that we have this house.
All right. Sheriff Garry McFadden, thank you for joining us on a Thursday morning. We've talked about a number of things, and always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.